Good evening and welcome to the March 24th, 2020 Board of Selectmen's meeting. I'd like to call to order and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
You can be seated.
We have 4 members of the board present tonight in the meeting. Selectman Kuchu will be attending the meeting from a remote location, and he will be on a screen to my left. As you're watching the meeting tonight, you're going to see we've taken many precautions due to the coronavirus that is gripping our area. We have removed many seats within the boardroom here. We're limiting people coming into the meeting. We also have moved where the person speaking to the board will be to my right due to the fact that we have to be able to allow Selectman Kuchu to hear the conversation. So we have moved the person that will be speaking also. At this time, I'd like to go over recognitions, nominations, appointments, and resignations. There are none. Nominations for review. Do you have that, or do you want to?
So we did not invite Mr. Favell, who's an applicant for the zoning board alternate position because of the current situation. So we can certainly defer him to another meeting. Mr. Favell had been on the zoning board years back, but I'm sure he's not familiar to some of the members. So I'm sure you'd like an opportunity to interview him in the future. But we thought, given Mr. Favell an opportunity to not be at this meeting.
So we'll defer that.
We can defer that.
Shaking his head, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to defer the nominations at this time.
He had just raised his hand. You might want to recognize him.
You have a comment, Selectman Kuchu?
Other than you, I can't hear anybody.
All right, we will speak up, and I'll ask the people at home to bear with us. This is the first time we're using this, so we have to get used to it also. Also, just for the people at home, we did eliminate public input at this time. Again, we just would like to reduce the amount of people that are coming into the room and speaking to the board, and so we don't infect people and try to keep everybody safe. If you do have questions, you can still reach us all by email. You can reach Tom Hall by email or phone call. How's that, better?
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Assessing items. Does any board wish to remove any item for separate consideration?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve consent items A, 1, 2, 3, 4, consent item B, C, D, E, and F.
I'll second with a modification. We don't need to act on item B or D because there are none.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion?
Did he hear the motion?
Did you hear the motion, Raj? No. Selectman Kuchu?
No.
Okay, motion
No,
on
I
the,
heard the motion. I heard the motion to approve all the consent items.
okay, we don't have to approve B or D because there are none.
Okay,
Okay,
got it.
thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
You need to
Aye.
do a
Aye.
roll call.
Roll call.
Yes,
Roll
please.
call.
Yes, please.
Selectman Kuchu?
Aye.
Selectman Roy?
Aye.
Selectman McGrath?
Aye.
Selectman Martin?
Aye.
Chairman Warren?
Aye.
Unanimous, passes.
Old business.
Old business. A, votes taken after non-public session on March 9th, 2020. Selectman Roy made a motion, seconded by Selectman McGrath, to seal the non-public minutes until resolution of a personnel matter. Carried 4-0. Motion to adjourn at 8:41 PM by Selectman Roy, seconded by Selectman Martin. Carried 4-0.
Okay, item A, the new business, COVID-19 department heads update. I recognize Chief Buxton.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Selectman Kuchu at home. Here to give you an update this evening on the EOC activities regarding the COVID-19 incident. Couple of report outs from the deliverables from the March 18th meeting. As of this date, tonight, before you'll have a continuity of operations plan for consideration. Second to that, we've had a mail slot installed in the front door of Town Hall with a drop box behind it for mail and registrations. And the EOC has moved to a virtual EOC using the GoToMeeting setup that you're using this evening. That is moving along quite well. Each morning we get together at 10 o'clock virtually, and then we report out at usually 2 or 3 in the afternoon after the work is completed for the day. Organizationally, regarding the organizational chart for the incident, we've stood up a safety and health division, and that sole purpose of that division is to address all employee safety and health items, public safety and health items. And to date, I'm happy to report they've put guidelines together for travel, cleaning, town clerk's operation they gave a hand with, and mail guideline. Sunday, the CDC adjusted the mail guideline, or the handling of mail, and we have now put into place a procedure to collect the mail. It goes into quarantine for a 24-hour period, and then is handled the next day by staff, so that procedure was rolled out. Additionally, the EOC has been working on inspectional services programs for how do we go about putting field inspections back in place, and continuing the operation with the town clerk's office to get motor vehicles registered. So a lot of work's been in place, a lot of information coming down from the state, some additional orders from the governor regarding a multitude of items. Today they're getting ready to act on some building inspection and permitting activities, and there was one other item regarding gatherings and sizes of gatherings and limiting that in size to 10. If you remember correctly, the state of New Hampshire had 50 as the number before. They've reduced it now to 10. So as of today, we have 46,000 cases in the United States. One thing I wanted to point out is that 23,000 of them are either in New York City or in the state of New York. We have over 101 cases in New Hampshire, and at this time we have one death of an individual from COVID-19 in the state who was located in the Hillsborough County. Regarding the continuity of operations plan, this afternoon we gave you a copy of plans that the individual department heads have put together. The goal was to obviously take into account the health and well-being of the employees and how to develop a guideline for continuing services for the public. As I've expressed on the 18th of March and expressed to the folks in the EOC, we're not dealing with a snowstorm. We're dealing with an event that's going to be several weeks in length, if not several months in length. So identifying an opportunity for departments to operate and continue to deliver services was a focal point for this exercise. Each department's individual plan is included. I've provided you an executive summary. It talks about limiting the number of staff within the work area, adjusting a rotation so you have staff that can work remotely or work on site, and how that's going to work, and go from there. The individual departments have been told to plan for a employee effect of 30% of their workforce potentially being out of work. That is what the federal government has been pushing down to us. Operationally, from a fire department perspective, just to give you some highlights, we'll be moving to a 10-member shift rotation, which will delete the peak time staffing, and the reason for that is to basically reduce one shift change at 8 p.m. at night. So they'll have one shift change at 8 in the morning, and then the duty crew will be on until 8 the next morning, trying to limit those exposures halfway through the shift. This will also provide us an opportunity to make sure we have staffing for the 3rd ambulance on a 24-hour basis, so we go down that road. Additionally, staff and inspectional services will rotate to make sure that we're providing at least an administrative person and 2 inspectors available for field inspection once we get the process in place and how those are going to be delivered by the end of this week. So we should be able to move forward with some additional services. Chief Avery has offered you a suggestion this evening that he has issued you a plan that basically will look to limit services in his criminal investigations area, his support services area, his legal area, and his records area. He's moving the bulk of his operation into emergency services, where they can do some investigation through patrol and those activities, and bolstering those numbers there. So he has a bunch of new recruits that obviously need some guidance in the field, so he's moving that number that direction. The Highway Department is looking to break their staff into 2 groups and rotate on a weekly basis and continue forward with pump station maintenance, traffic lights, street sweeping, street repairs, spring cleanup, and emergency response. And that is normal activity for this time of year, trying to get as many services provided. They will not be moving forward with any non-emergent repairs. Support services wise, so all the other areas of town, administration, land use, water, sewer, clerk's office, assessing, they've all offered individual plans, and the nuts and bolts of what they're looking to do is keep social distancing, put some of their staff into a queue, rotate them on site, rotate them off site, and alternate so they can continue to be able to deliver services, and not get into a situation where their entire division goes out sick. So that is the key to that area. I'm certainly willing to answer as many questions as I can. I do have a copy of all of the plans if you have something specific, but I believe that's what we were tasked with doing, and that's our report out this evening.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody have any questions? Selectman McGrath.
I have one. I read over all of what was submitted, and I don't have any issues at all with what's being proposed. But I did have a question about whether or not, I noticed on some.
He's having a hard time hearing you.
That's
You gotta talk a
that's
little
okay.
louder.
So the question that I have is when people, I've noticed like in the town offices, they're working three days on, 3 days off, and whether or not those changes are going to affect the payroll of those employees. And that goes with the police, the fire department, public works. They've all tried to accommodate so that they have ample time off and ample time on, but I just want to make sure that their pay isn't going to be affected. And if it is, whether or not we'll be getting funds from FEMA to compensate for that.
Yeah.
No, so through action of the board, at the 18th meeting, you've taken a stance that you were going to make employees whole through, I think it was April 4th. So with where we are in the incident today, I would think that we may want to try to push that out through the end of the month, if that's amendable to the board, but that's a decision the board needs to make.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Selectman Kuchu, you all set?
Right now I am, yes.
Okay, thank you. Before the chief leaves, do we want to address that pay thing right now, or would you wait to hear from the finance director first?
I don't think so. I think we can make that decision without input.
Good.
Because I don't think that any employee ought to lose wages, provided we can get reimbursed or get some compensation from FEMA. And I understand, as everybody knows, I watch the news. I'm probably on OD about news now, but FEMA does have funding available to the municipalities for reimbursement to compensate.
Still can't.
And I just want to clarify, that's the end of April you're talking about?
Correct, in
Okay.
April, yep. Yep.
So, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me just add one thing. The president had his daily briefing this evening. Sorry, I'm going to be worn out by the end of this meeting. But, and he indicated that they're hopeful that things will sort of get back to normal, somewhat normal, by Easter time, and that's about 19 days. So I think by the end of April, we'll be in a better place to know whether or not this is gonna last longer, or hopefully not.
Thank you. Selectman Roy?
So, I mean, I have some concerns about the revenue, and if we have the money to cover that and cover all of our other expenses, particularly if there's gonna be a lag in reimbursement from either state or federal funds.
The finance director went over that the other day with me, and it appears that we have enough to pay the school their payments, and we have enough to do the payroll and pay for the basic bills through at least the end of this fiscal year. When she comes in, you can specifically
Okay.
ask her, but I believe it was in
Okay.
the ballpark. We have about $12 million in the bank that we'll be able to make all those payments.
Okay,
So-
because she expressed a concern about revenue, because,
Yes.
you know,
But
revenue's
right now,
not.
we also have $7 million sitting in the water fund that if we needed to, we could borrow from one fund to the other fund. So she has looked at the school payments because those are important. We pay those over. We've looked at the payroll. If you take it $250 a week, you know, that's $2.5 million probably to the end of the year. When I talked to her yesterday,
Okay.
we went through those numbers, and it appears that we should have sufficient cash to the end of the fiscal year.
Selectman Kuchu?
With all due respect to everyone, could you possibly pull your microphones closer to you so I can hear you more clearly? A lot is breaking out at that distance.
Okay, you gotta understand, you're not on the microphones, you're on a phone. That's why you're getting what you're getting for sound. Remember, it's the first time. We'll try to improve this after tonight. We apologize that you can't hear. We're doing the best we can at this side at this point. Do you have any questions for the chief on this, any of this stuff?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you, sir. Do we want to make a motion, reference to the pay to the end of April?
I'll make that motion. I don't know how to phrase it, but to extend,
What is it, 30 days in April? Make it,
Through the end of the month, or
The last
ending
pay
by
period?
April, yeah, last pay period in
Period of
April.
yeah.
I'll make that motion.
second?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor by Selectman McGrath, seconded by Selectman Martin.
Did you hear the motion, Selectman Kuchu? Make sure he hears it.
Yes, I know what it is.
Okay.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote.
Selectman Kuchu?
Aye.
Selectman Roy?
Aye.
Selectman Martin?
Aye.
Selectman McGrath?
Aye.
Chairman Moran?
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Anything else, chief?
Nothing, see me, I'll hang around in case anything comes
Okay.
up.
Thank you. Item A1, emergency voting during the COVID-19 event.
I believe Selectman Roy asked for this. I had our attorney put this together for us. It's been updated through today. So what does that mean? Things are changing at the State House, so there's language in here referencing the governor's latest order, but this basically gives you the framework for electronic and meetings, and if we need to meet at any time, this will be the process.
Okay. I've read this, and I don't have any problem with the language. I think it,
Selectman Kuchu, you all set with item A1 before we take a vote?
What is the motion?
There isn't one yet, if you have any questions.
No, I'm fine.
Motion on the floor?
The motion is to approve the Board of Selectmen emergency voting during COVID-19 pandemic policy.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor by Selectman Martin, seconded by Selectman Roy. Did you hear the motion, Selectman Kuchu?
Yes, I did, sir. Thank you.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Selectman Kuchu?
Aye.
Selectman Roy?
Aye.
Selectman Martin?
Aye.
Selectman McGrath?
Aye.
Chairman Moran?
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0.
Item 2A, if the finance director is available, just give us a minute. She's out of the room, so she has to come in. Again, go ahead.
Just had a thought, I don't know if it's gonna work out timing-wise, if he could hear the whole meeting on HCTV. Would that work?
He has to mute his TV, otherwise there's too much
Feedback.
feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, I ask the public just to bear with us. This is the first time we're using this, and we're trying to keep everybody separated. And here we have Finance Director Kathy Carpentier.
In the big chair.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is odd. Excuse me one sec. So part of the action items or the deliverables from the COVID-19 Emergency Operations Center was 3 requests that I come to you this evening. One is to talk about town credit cards. Currently, the town only has 2 credit cards, one with the police chief and one with the town administrator. Past boards didn't want to increase the number of cards. I think at this time it is prudent to get more cards, increase the limit, especially in a time like this where the emergency operations director doesn't have access to credit cards, and if he needs an emergency on an off day, he wouldn't have it. So what I need to do is ask you to increase the credit limit from $15,000 to $70,000. I'm proposing to increase the town administrator and the police chief. The town administrator from $7,500 to $20,000, the police chief from $7,500 to $10,000. The fire chief get a new card for $10,000. The community media director, the cable gentleman, for $5,000, and the public works for $5,000. I've also included myself on there to be emergency cases only. I'm not one to purchase too many things, but I'd be purchasing on behalf of other departments. And I believe I mentioned this to 1 or 2 selectmen at the EOC, and they might want to if they were to propose this as an approval tonight, might want to revisit it later in the future. So I broke out the language if that is what the board would like to do.
Any questions? Selectman Roy.
Is there any graduated approval process? So for instance, could the town administrator just make a purchase of $20,000? Like
Well-
a one-time purchase of $20,000?
Well, technically, today, any department head can only spend up to $1,000.
Okay.
After that, they need the chairman of the board, and if it's more than $10,000, they need a majority of the board. The next thing I'm about to talk might change that, just during state of emergencies.
Okay, all right.
But currently, no, he could only spend $1,000. He still has to, any department head, any one of these would still have to go through the same purchase order policy that we have in place outside of the state of emergency.
Okay.
Any other questions? Selectman Kuchu, you all set with the information?
My question is, are these cards, are they going to be issued permanently?
Yes, they are being issued permanently, but one selectman said they might want to revisit this in 6 months. If I may, it was before this state of emergency, it was my plan to come back to the board and talk about procurements. We do have some ability to get rebates on some things, like just even our trash pickup. We could get a rebate that would come back to the town just by putting it on a credit card. But I'm not here tonight to ask you that, but I do see a need in the future to have credit cards for more department heads in the future.
You see a need for more department heads to have a credit card?
The ones in front of you versus the 2. We only have the 2 that currently have a credit card.
Okay, and you're just talking about the 4 additional.
That's correct. And this list was vetted by myself and the town administrator.
So currently, if the fire chief needs to make a purchase on a credit card, he has to come basically to the credit card that I use. Same with the finance director, or the public works director. Any of those folks, they gotta go through, they send me a request, can I use the credit card? Trying to just be more streamlined with this.
Selectman Kuchu, if we choose to, after this emergency's over, we can revisit this and lower them or change the cards, whatever. This is, at this point, due to the emergency, that way it gives them some flexibility to get the equipment and other things that they may need to deal with this problem.
Yeah, okay.
Any other further, Selectman Martin?
I'm not a big fan of issuing out a bunch of credit cards, Dan. I'm just not a big fan, but I can understand the situation we're in, and if we revisit it, I'll support the motion.
So I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
To authorize the treasurer to request new town credit cards for the finance director, the fire chief, the community media director, and the public works director, and to increase the credit limit for the town from $15,000 to $70,000 as recommended by the finance director, and to revisit the credit card policies and procedures in 6 months.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor by Selectman Martin, seconded by Selectman McGrath. Any further discussion?
I'll just comment if I
Yep.
can.
Selectman McGrath?
On my motion. We all know the people that are gonna be getting these credit cards, and I have the utmost confidence in all of them to use the cards appropriately and not exceed the limits that, the $1,000 limit that they can use the card for. So I have no indication or no hesitation to approve this motion.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say, I agree with what Selectman McGrath said, that, you know, these folks, we have to show them a level of trust here, that they're gonna do the right thing, and I think knowing all of them, that we don't have a problem with that. I also think that it will greatly increase efficiency. They don't have to wait if the town administrator has to leave for the afternoon or something, they don't have to wait to make a purchase. So I'm actually in support of just continuing on with the policy. But I'll support the motion as it is.
Selectman Kuchu, you all set?
I would like to have the motion amended to say that we will revisit it so we have a date specific, the last meeting in September of 2020.
Well, that's part of the motion, that
6 months.
it's 6 months from today's date.
Did you get that? It's part of the motion already, 6 months from today's date that we would revisit it.
I understand that, but 6 months, when you generalize when you're going to visit something, typically based on experience, it gets lost in the shuffle. I would prefer a date specific.
Second meeting in September 2020.
Second meeting in September 2020, is that agreeable to you?
Yes, it is.
So I'll amend my second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, motion on the floor by Selectman Martin, seconded by Selectman McGrath, amended. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Selectman Kuchu?
Aye.
Selectman Martin?
Aye.
Selectman Roy?
Aye.
Selectman McGrath?
Aye.
Chairman Moran?
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, item 3A, revision on limits of authority.
This is referring to the purchasing policy that we just spoke of. In times of crisis like the state of emergency, if we were all to work from home, which that might never come, but we were looking at a way to streamline the efficiencies. So I am recommending that just in the case of a state of emergency, that I would be able to print all the purchase orders myself, sign off on it. The board would still be able to see everything when the checks are paid. I do not purchase many items. It would be by request from the department heads, mostly in the EO, emergency operation group of people. I think this is going to cut down a lot of paper processing that has to go, and in a time of crisis, I think that that's the most efficient way to go.
Any questions? Selectman McGrath.
I'll make a motion to change the limits of authority matrix, parentheses, revision 2020-03, close paren, by adding a state of emergency section authorizing the finance director or the town administrator to approve purchases up to $10,000 and require the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to sign for purchases over $10,000.
I'll second for discussion.
Motion on the floor. Selectman Kuchu, did you get the motion?
Yeah, I did. I have a question.
Okay,
We don't give it, I know that Ms. Carpentier mentioned that this would be during the time of emergency. And there was a statement made that, well, we would get to see what they are anyway. When we're given the packet to sign off on, it's typically 200-300 pages, we're not going to know if there's any, and if the purchase is $9,000, you won't sign off on it, so you won't get to see it, and we'd have to go fishing through the pile to find out what an extraordinary expense that required the town administrator or the finance director to sign off on. If it's extraordinary, I would like to have you or the chairperson review that purchase if it's over 5,000.
Okay,
Not
so,
appro-
go ahead.
Finance direct, it doesn't limit the finance director or the town administrator from making the purchase. I would just like to, can you hear me? Because believe it or not, Andy Custer is calling me right now.
We're far,
still hear me?
we're
Yes.
far more important.
Oh,
There we go.
Okay.
He's back.
What I'd like, I don't know if that made sense, what I said, but
May I speak to that?
yes, absolutely.
Okay, I would assume that I was more hoping to do all the day-to-day activities, signing off on those type of POs. I would think anything in the $5,000 to $10,000 range would be something to do with the Emergency Operations Center, so I'm quite sure that the chiefs or the Public Works Director would have already told the chair or the liaison to the board member who's part of the Emergency Operations Center. It would be, hey, we need, I can't even imagine what we'd need, but, 100 million thermometers or something, and that would be a recommendation by the Emergency Operation Group. So I think that the board would know what those large purchases are.
We could also make a copy of them and just send it around to everybody after we've done it, and then you'd all see it.
you all set right now?
No, and yeah, that wouldn't, okay, that wouldn't be necessary. I agree with the finance director. I think that that makes a lot of sense to me. The only other question I would have is this just during the emergency you're requesting this, or you want this to be the standard policy from today on out?
No, I'm asking just for the state of, when we're under a state of emergency.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Selectman Roy.
So, how did you come up with the figure of 10,000? I mean, what would you anticipate a purchase of $10,000 would be?
I was, the standard stuff. So what I was thinking of is if we were all sent home, town admin,
Yeah.
police and fire are still working. Their admin people might not be there. Chief could send me a quote to buy tires for the truck or something,
Okay.
and I would just sign off on that, and I would create the PO, and he could just give it to the vendor. Normally, what would happen is he'd sign it, I'd sign it, Steve would sign it, chairman would sign it. If it was over 10, then three of yous would sign it, just trying to cut out all that during the time of crisis, just getting him his normal day-to-day goods and services.
Okay, I just wanted to get to your rationale about where that came from, but that I support the motion.
I went to 10,000. I know that's a lot, but that is the threshold where I do believe that the town code says a majority of the board needs to look for purchases over $10,000.
Okay.
Okay, there was a motion on the floor by Selectman Martin, seconded by Selectman McGrath.
I made the motion.
And I said-
Okay, the other way around. Selectman McGrath made the motion, Selectman Roy seconded it. Selectman Kuchar, you all set on the motion before we vote?
Yes, I am. I was supporting the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call. Roll call.
Selectman Kuchu.
Aye.
Selectman McGrath.
Aye.
Selectman Roy.
Aye.
Selectman Martin.
Aye.
Chairman Moran.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item A4.
The last item I have under the COVID department head update is emergency assistance intake form. These times are trying right now. We haven't seen an uptick on townspeople looking for assistance at this point. I can only imagine we are going to start to see an uptick. We aren't having people come in and go through the whole application process. It's a 14-page application. We really do a good due diligence on the normal day-to-day. If we were to have a large influx of people requesting help, we were trying to just make it be a little more relaxed at this point. With the government's executive orders, where people cannot be evicted or foreclosed on, utilities can't be shut off.
Right.
We really aren't in an urgent need to get those people processed. If we had, 20, 30 people show up one day, we could just get them their immediate needs based on this one-page application and still go back and help them and try to get them straight on the road to put them back into financial security down the road. But this is something we'd like to put on the website so that somebody could do a fillable form. It's just a quick and easy form saying what they need help for. If they're just looking for food or supplies, we could give them monetary assistance in the short term.
Still go through Kathy Wilson.
It's going through Kathy Wilson. We also have a backup person that we're training at this point. But I'm not, that person's not trained at this point. So it is Kathy Wilson. There are two other people who are new to the town, but they're also cross-trained. I myself and you yourself can also help. So there's a pool of people that could be doing this if, if the big swell of applicants come in. So, but this form was previously in the policies and procedures, but we're just trying to use it as a snapshot to help out in the short term under crisis.
And during the state of emergency, that's, again, important to state.
Any questions? Selectman McGrath.
So looking at the application or the intake form, would you require any kind of proof of residency? Whether it's a license or an electric bill or
Yes.
something?
Yes. And I would say most times they would have it, but if they didn't, and they were looking for food, maybe we'd give them a little food till they can find a document that proves residency. I mean, we're not trying to,
Well, no, I'm not trying to limit people either, except that sometimes in times of crisis, people from Massachusetts may,
yeah.
come in or.
We'd be
so-
looking for licenses or utility bills, and at this point, we would be able to, they could take pictures, and send a copy of their license in. They could take pictures of their utility bills to prove residency, type of thing, because sometimes licenses do say Mass, but yet they're living here in Hudson.
Selectman, you all set?
I am, thank you.
Selectman Kuchu.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the use of the emergency assistance intake form for short-term financial assistance during a state of emergency.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor by Selectman Kuchu, seconded by Selectman Roy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Selectman McGrath.
Aye.
Selectman Roy.
Aye.
Selectman Martin.
Aye.
Selectman Kuchu.
Aye.
Chairman Warren.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You will be back.
I will, thank you.
Now I recognize Jess Florence, Town Public Works Director, on townwide paving. And again, Jess is out of the room, so it'll be a minute before he gets here.
Ooh, look at that.
Wow, ran right in. Excellent. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. That time of year again, where townwide paving hopefully will take place in the next couple of months if everything starts going in the right directions. What I'd like to do is get it talked about if needed and see if we would like to extend the Brock's paving contract. The letter I sent to the people shows that it's still a substantial savings to the town by extending it. There is a slight increase, but I still think it's well within justification.
Any questions? Selectman Kuchu.
Mr. Florence, in your budget, did you anticipate an increase and did you budget accordingly?
We carry the same number each year, so we get as much out of that as we possibly can, depending on what the cost is. We know what the number is when we start out figuring roads, so we know what we can get done for that dollar value.
Okay, I'm good then. Thank you very much.
Any further questions? Motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman. Motion to approve the townwide paving contract for the FY '21 fiscal year.
What the motion you want to make is
I'm
to
sorry.
waive the bid process and accept the offer from Brock's Industries to extend the town-wide paving contract for fiscal year '21.
So I'll make that motion.
I'll second. I'll second.
Motion on the floor by Selectman Roy, seconded by Selectman McGrath. Selectman Kuchu, you all set with the motion?
Yes, sir, I am.
Roll call?
Selectman Martin.
Aye.
Selectman Kuchu.
Aye.
Selectman Roy.
Aye.
Selectman McGrath.
Aye.
Chairman Moran.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Just a clarification, if I could, from the board. Public Works would like to start this separation as early as tomorrow morning. So if I get the okay with that, then I can make the phone calls tonight and keep the people that are on next week.
Yeah,
home,
I
and we'll
believe
do
Believe that's
that
what
was
we-
the
what
plan.
we
Yeah,
discussed.
that was the
Yep.
plan.
Very
It
good,
starts
thank you.
tomorrow morning.
Yep.
That's tomorrow morning, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Item C, recommendation financial audit services. Kathy Carpentier, the finance director. She's out of the room, she'll be right in.
I left so quickly, I neglected to say thank you for your support on those last 3 items. I appreciate it. Now, these next 2 items, I did way back before the state of emergency started, so it's kind of a little bit backwards on the second one, the credit card policy. But every 3 years, I come before you to ask for you to sign off on the auditors. We've been using Plodzik and Sanderson, I want to say, well over 30 years. I couldn't even trace it back how long. We did go out to bid once before, and they were the lowest bidder. It is my recommendation to continue using them. They change out their partners and the managers, meaning the people coming to audit us are different every single year. So whoever's running our show is definitely looking at different areas, getting to know the town. So it's not like a mom and pop organization where there's only 2 people and, you know, they're looking at the same thing year after year after year. We've had a good relationship with them. They've maintained the same pricing for the last 6 years now. So it is my wish is that you'd waive the competitive bidding process and award the audit engagement to Plodzik and Sanderson for the next 3 years, fiscal 20, 21, and 22.
Selectman Kuchu, you have a question?
No, I'm ready to make a motion.
I have a question. Go ahead, I'll wait.
Yep, we're all set, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the competitive bidding requirements as outlined in Town Code 98-1, parentheses T, and to award the contract to Plodzik and Sanderson for financial audit services for fiscal years ending June 30th, 2020, 2021, and 2022, as outlined in the memo dated March 3rd, 2020 from Plodzik and Sanderson, as recommended by the finance director and the town administrator.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor by Selectman Kuchu, seconded by Selectman McGrath. Any further discussion? Selectman
The
Martin.
question, I just want to, I hear you say correctly that they send different auditors every year, so you're not seeing the same person every year?
Right, we might have one of the same leads, the manager, but there's managers, there's partners, and then there's younger staff, and they do rotate out all the time. So different ones are diving into, like water and sewer this year, might do something else next year. So you have different eyes looking at different parts of the
Okay. So-
businesses.
Just, my concern is that we don't have the same set of 4 people coming in and looking at the books, because I've seen things happen in life that shouldn't have happened, so.
In a smaller firm, a mom and pop type firm, as the finance director said, you might see that, but with this, I don't even know half of them. They come in every year. Mr. Plodzik retired. I've never met Mr. Sanderson. So they're constantly turning over their folks. And again, they have a base of our policy, so that part, they're much more efficient on. They don't have to dig for every policy, but there's always new partners and new people coming in. And I've been doing this for 23 years, so I've seen different people.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Selectman Kuchu, you have any further questions?
No, I'm fine, sir, thank you.
Motion on the floor. All in favor? Roll call.
Selectman McGrath.
Aye.
Selectman Roy.
Aye.
Selectman Kuchu.
Aye.
Selectman Martin.
Aye.
Chairman Moran.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item D, credit card policy.
So again, I wrote this in the beginning of March. So what you just previously did would change the policy and procedure, but part of the audit that we went through last summer, I was asked if I had a credit card policy, and we did not. We had nothing written, so I created this policy and procedure. I borrowed the template from the SAU, and didn't make a lot of changes. But it is good concrete, having people sign. Where we only had 2 credit card holders, we didn't have a policy and procedure, but that definitely is a weakness. So it was a finding by the auditors. I was trying to correct that finding. If you choose to approve this now, it would need to be amended based on what you just did earlier. I guess my recommendation is if we could approve it as it is now, and I will come back again and update it with all the new card holders.
Selectman Martin.
Yes. On your credit card policy, page 2,
Yes.
you got that? Okay, that's all I
It
wanted to
was
point out.
pointed out to me that by borrowing somebody else's policy, I didn't take
okay.
out the word school district. And so on page 2, it would, instead of saying reimbursing the school district, it would say reimbursing the town. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Any further questions? Selectman Roy.
Do you know of any, or could you investigate if there's any training for those card holders so that they would know what their parameters are when they get issued a card?
Sure, I could research that. I guess I'd like to know what you're referring to as parameters.
So that they know that they can, how much they can charge, what they can charge, for instance, basically what this policy says,
Oh.
that there's no, they're not using it for personal use, and they understand what the ramifications of that are if they do that. Something where they're told what the rules are, you know,
Yes.
and they indicate that they understand those rules.
So what's nice about this, there's 2 actual policies in front of you. FIN 004, which is the credit card policy, and then there's FIN 005, which is credit card procedure. Part of that procedure, they will be signing, saying that they've read this, and that the cardholder's agreement is on page 4, close to the back, saying they understand the parameters. The department heads are well aware of our purchasing policy. They know in normal times they can only do up to $1,000 on a purchase order, so that also applies to the credit card. But I definitely will make sure that they're aware, and I've documented that they're aware of the procedures.
Okay, that's all I have.
Selectman Kuchar, did you get the information on the question and the answer?
Yes, I just have one question. Page 3, Mrs. Carpentier. Cardholder separation.
Go ahead.
It says here that upon termination of employment from the town, the cardholder shall surrender the credit card to the finance director. Upon receipt of the card will be deactivated, et cetera, et cetera. Can we not deactivate it upon the termination of employment without having to wait for the card to come in case they don't come in for a week?
Yes, as soon as I'm informed, I would reach out. I mean, I think it's a good control to get the card back in my hand, or the town administrator, so we're the ones shredding it. But I do respect that the minute I know of somebody was terminated, I think I'd be on the phone canceling that credit card, yes. So would you like me to change the wording there?
It would be preferable for me so that it's clear what we're doing.
Okay. So something like upon notification of termination, the card will be deactivated?
Correct.
Okay.
Any further questions? Selectman McGrath.
I'll make a motion to adopt the credit card usage policy, FIN-004, and adopt the credit card procedure, FIN-005,
As amended.
as amended and recommended by the finance director.
I'll second, I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
All right, Selectman Roy beat you to it. Motion on the floor by Selectman McGrath, seconded by Selectman
After
Roy.
everyone else.
Selectman Kuchar, you're all set with the motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Selectman Martin.
Aye.
Selectman McGrath.
Aye.
Selectman Roy.
Aye.
Selectman Kuchu.
Aye.
Chairman Warren.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much for your support this evening.
Kathy,
Welcome.
and thank
Oh,
you for
sorry.
all the work you've done with the emergency that we're in right now. It's much appreciated. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.
Now I recognize the town administrator on the proposal for legal services.
You have in front of you a proposal to continue with David Lefevre, who's working for Talbot and Brodich, for an additional year, starting July 1st, 2020, going through June 30th, 2021, at the same hourly rate. I recommend that we take this deal. I think Attorney Lefevre's done an excellent job for us. He's already been working for us for 5 years. This would be a 6th year at the same rate. So it is my recommendation that we do a 1-year contract with Attorney Lefevre.
Selectman Roy.
I'll make a motion to enter into a contract for legal services with the law firm of Tarbell and Brodich, PA, for the period of July 1, 2020 through July 30, 2021, for the terms as specified in the proposal for legal services 2020 through 2021, letter as prepared by Attorney David Lefevre.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Selectman Roy, seconded by Selectman McGrath. Selectman Kuchar, you all set with the motion?
I'm all set.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call?
Selectman Martin.
Aye.
Selectman McGrath.
Aye.
Selectman Roy.
Aye.
Selectman Kuchu.
Aye.
Chairman Warren.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item F, Liberty Field update. Town engineer Elvis Dema.
Perfect timing. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
As you recall, the Board of Selectmen requested Mr. Yates to go out for engineering services for the field. We did do exactly that on February 14th. On February 26th, we had a mandatory pre-bid meeting at the site. We put an engineering estimate on this services for $20,000, and we got 2 bids. As you can see on the attachment, they're at $18,900 and $18,500, very close. And we set up an interview committee consisting of myself, the town administrator, and Director of Public Works. Originally, we have Mr. Yates in, but he was on vacation at that time, so we had that group. Overall, everything went very well, but we felt that SFC Engineering out of Windham, New Hampshire did a better job than the other one by a little bit. We felt that they had prepared quite a bit of what they thought the solutions were. We felt as a group that that was the way to go. That's what's being recommended to you tonight. This engineering firm worked for the town of Hudson in the past. They were involved with a senior center at Kimball Hill, and the most recent one has been the utility project, the design project that they did for utilities at Benson to get the water and sewer for Friends of Benson and the bathroom. So they've done work for the town in the past. With that said, I'll take any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Oh, and this will be coming out of a planning board account, similar to the one that was done for the assessment. It's,
The recreation account, which
Yeah,
has
recreation
about
account.
$35,969. This money will
Right.
come from that, so those are contributions paid by developers into that fund.
right,
It's not going to be
Non-taxpayer,
a
right.
taxpayer-funded
correct,
project.
yes.
Selectman Kuchar, go ahead.
Mr. Dema, I don't disagree with the recommendation, but I have a question relative to Wilcox and Barton. Based on the literature that was provided us upstairs in our office, there was a statement made by SFC Engineering that Wilcox and Barton had already done a study. And I was wondering, what were their recommendations, if they had any, and my understanding was that they did, and why we didn't follow their recommendations.
So their recommendation, that the assessment consisted of 2 things. The findings, which the Board of Selectmen was presented with, as far as the water table goes, other things that were basically causing the drainage, and also their recommendation which wasn't a real design, was basically lifting the field about a foot. What we're looking for is basically addressing the situation out there without having to go all the way down to lifting the whole field. What we tried to get into right now, Selectman Kuchar, is finding exactly the design that's gonna address the situation. So.
How much did we pay Wilcox and Barton for the initial study?
$6,000.
So we threw away $6,000 then.
No, we found exactly what was happening with the field, where the issues were, and how we're gonna address it. What the assessment covered was the findings, what was causing it, and basically a recommendation to which it can go, but not a design. What we're doing right now is the actual design to basically get us this field operational for, throughout the year. So
What do you estimate? All right, so there's going to be a fix recommended.
Yes, an exact fix.
And
Yes,
at a considerable cost.
at an exact cost for what the design will call for, yes.
I didn't say exact, I said considerable.
Presumably.
Yes, yes. We want to get to the bottom of this. The intent right now is identify and now design so we can get this field to basically be used throughout the year, yes.
How much did we pay to build the field, Mr. Dima?
About 300,000.
And so we have 300,000 plus an additional, what did you say, we paid 6,000
6,000, yes.
for the study?
Yes,
And now we're putting out another 18,900, so we're up to 340, say $45,000, and we still have to fix it for what could conceivably be a considerable amount of money.
330.
Where do you anticipate, where would you anticipate we would get the funds to fix it?
Well, it was identified on the last meeting that there was some funds available regarding for a recreational center that the town administrator presented. They'll obviously need a town vote on that behalf, but there is some funds available that could be maybe redirected for that are non-taxpayer base. And the voters will have to be.
All right, yeah, well, we'll see what that number is. I'm interested in seeing what SFC comes in with. All right, thank you very much. You've answered all of my questions. Didn't mean to imply that you were throwing money away. It was I want to make it clear to the people who are listening that you and the recreation director, and I know I had been out there several times, it was based on a design that we thought was going to fit, and it was going to work. We expanded the parking area while the crew was there because it would be a lot cheaper doing it that way than having them come back, if you remember that conversation we had with the contractor. And it's a beautiful piece of property, and this would, resolving this problem will provide us with the additional recreation field that it may not be the answer to all the problems with fields, but it'll certainly be very, very helpful to the youth and adults who want to use it in our community if we can get this thing fixed once and for all. So I did not mean to imply by my questions that I was finding fault with you. I just wanted the voters to know we have an investment. They don't give fields away. They have to be cleared. They have to be seeded. They have to be fenced in. There are costs associated with that. Our situation here is unique in that we have a water problem. We pretty much ascertain what that problem is, and now you're recommending that we get an engineered design to fix the problem once and for all so we can get this field up and running.
Correct.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Deemer. I appreciate your help with this.
Thank you, Selectman Kuchu.
Selectman Martin,
I'm
you
good.
good? Selectman McGrath.
I make a motion to approve the contract for engineering design services for the Liberty Field to SFC Engineering for the amount of not to exceed $18,900 using account number 2050-182.
Second, sorry.
Motion on the floor by Selectman McGrath, seconded by Selectman Martin. Selectman Kuchu, you all set with the motion?
Yes, I am, sir. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Selectman Kuchu,
Aye.
Selectman Martin,
Aye.
Selectman McGrath,
Aye.
Selectman Roy,
Aye.
Chairman Moran.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, you
See you
too.
later.
Be safe. Be good.
Thank you.
Item G, spring cleaning of the cemetery on Central Street. As you all know, that the voters approved the town taking over the cemetery, and we don't take it over till July, though, when the year starts. Just looking for permission to let the Public Works go in there and clean the cemetery up, because it went all last fall without a cleaning, with all the leaves and all the debris is still in there.
I would agree that Public Works should, now that we have ownership of it or control of it, I think it's a shame when cemeteries are let go and people have family members or loved ones buried in those cemeteries, and if they go to visit the graves or to honor their deceased friends or family, that makes it much more heartbreaking for them, so.
Any further? Do we need a motion on this, or just consensus?
If the consensus of the board is to direct the Public Works Department, we'll
Okay.
direct them.
Selectman Kuchu, you all set with that?
Yeah, I'm all set with it. I think we should formalize it in a motion, but, yeah, I'll go along with consensus.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. If I can get my page to turn here. Item H, discussion on vetting volunteers prior to appointments. Selectman Kuchu.
Mr. Chairman, I ask that this item be put on the agenda for a myriad of reasons. I would like to have the town administrator or someone in the staff, when someone applies for a position on the Board of Selectmen, applies to the Board of Selectmen to sit on a committee for an assignment, that we properly vet the application prior to it coming to us for consideration, so that we don't run into a problem at the last minute and have to postpone it and make it look like we're conducting a major investigation on somebody who's applying to volunteer. There are a lot of things that can be done to vet an application. There are a lot of, with what's online today and what's available, we can probably have these properly vetted before they come to us. If nothing of any significance shows up in the vetting, then we can act on it. If there is a problem, the town administrator can advise us in non-public that there's a problem with the application.
Selectman Roy.
I guess, what specifically would you expect them to do?
Vet the application.
But
It's,
how?
Self-explanatory.
No, but how? Do you want them to run background checks?
I just said how. There's a lot of tools available on the web today to do vetting. Phone calls can be made. However you would want to vet an application. It's an application.
Selectman Roy, all set?
Sure.
Any other questions? Would you like to make a motion for that, Selectman Kuchu, or how would you like to handle that?
I can make a motion. I make a motion that we have the town administrator vet all volunteer applications prior to their being presented to the Board of Selectmen.
Second? No second, sir.
Figures. Okay, thank you.
You all set?
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled.
Item I, nomination and appointment of Board of Selectmen Chairman and Vice Chairman. Recognize the town administrator.
So this is typically the meeting where the board nominates and/or appoints the chairman and vice chairman. If I may, I might make a recommendation, as we're in a state of emergency, I think from a continuity perspective, that until we're through this state of emergency, I think my recommendation would be to defer this to a future, you could either do a future date or bring it up at the next meeting. But I think that, given the continuity of, and what we're going through, I think it's prudent to keep the structure in place that we have right now. That's my recommendation. You are certainly free to do something else.
Selectman McGrath.
I'm prepared to make a motion to nominate Chairman Moran to continue as the chairman of this board.
And I'm prepared to make a motion to close those nominations and appoint Selectman Moran as chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Selectman Kuchu, I saw your hand.
You can't close nominations. Anybody has a right to nominate anybody at any time, but I do support it, but you can't close nominations. Anybody has a right to nominate whomever they wish.
I realize that.
Okay, well, you made a motion to close the nomination. You can't do that. Anyway, I support the motion wholeheartedly.
I need a second.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
But you don't need a second for a nomination.
To close the nominations, you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I will continue to do my best. Thank you.
We're gonna do a roll call vote?
Yeah, in a minute. I just wanna, all right, we'll do the vote first. Go ahead.
Okay, so the motion on the floor right now is to nominate Selectman Moran to remain as chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Selectman Kuchu?
Aye.
Selectman Roy?
Aye.
Selectman McGrath?
Aye.
Selectman Martin?
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you. Again, this is probably one of the toughest times the town's gone through, but it's not all one person. I'll tell you, the support and everything you've all done is very much appreciated, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us. This is probably just the beginning of what we're doing, and I appreciate everything you all do. Thank you very much for your advice and time. Myself and Selectman Roy are on the phone a lot. I've been talking to you people 3 or 4 times a day. I appreciate it. Mr. Malaysia, again, your information that you provide is, if we didn't have it, we'd be lost. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Can I just
Yeah.
add something to that? And I don't say this lightly, but I cannot think of a better person to lead us through this time in the town's history. So, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I agree with that. And I've expressed that, at least on a couple of occasions. I think I've said enough.
Again, it's a team. It's a team. We have added item J. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Does
We
the
need
board wish to
vice.
deliberate or nominate anyone for vice chairman?
Mr. Chairman,
I got you. Hold on, Selectman Kuchu. Go ahead, Selectman Martin.
I will nominate Selectman Roy as vice chair.
Selectman Kuchu?
I will nominate Selectman McGrath as vice chair.
Any further comment? Selectman McGrath?
I'll make a comment. Under different circumstances, I would be pleased to serve as the vice chair. I said, under different circumstances, I would be pleased to serve as the vice chairman of this board. However, under the circumstances that we're in, the extreme conditions that we have, the safety and all of that, that both Chairman Moran and Vice Chairman Roy have done an exemplary job. And given that my health can be precarious, I think it's best that I not accept. And so I'm happy to support and second the motion for Selectman Roy.
Selectman Kuchu, did you get that?
Didn't hear a word she said.
Okay, due to the circumstances that we're in right now in town, if I say this wrong,
No,
please
go-
let me know.
Go right ahead.
Due to the circumstances right now and her health, that she would graciously not accept that nomination and would support Selectman Roy being the co-chair.
Vice chair.
Vice chair,
Okay.
all right?
I appreciate the nomination, but given the circumstances, I think that it's best that I not accept.
She appreciates the nomination, but due to the circumstances, she thinks best not to accept.
Okay, I accept that.
Okay?
So,
Motion on the floor by Selectman Martin,
Seconded.
seconded by Selectman McGrath. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Selectman Kuchu?
No.
Selectman McGrath?
Aye.
Selectman Martin?
aye.
Chairman Moran?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1 with Selectman Kuchu in opposition.
Thank you.
4-1?
Thank you.
No, she didn't.
No, because
Oh,
the
you didn't vote?
vice chair can't
Okay.
vote.
How is it 3-1?
Because Selectman Roy did not vote.
Selectman Roy's not voting for herself? Interesting,
You
thank
can.
you.
Oh, I skipped you. I'm sorry.
So that would be an aye.
Yes. 4-1.
4-1, sir, 4-1. All set, Selectman Kuchu?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we had to add item J, reference to, again, what we're going through right now with the state of emergency. Does this board want to move its meetings up to weekly so we can deal with any issues that are coming up that we may have to address?
I would be agreeable to that.
Not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think it's prudent at this point. I mean, we can always adjust if it's necessary.
Okay, so consensus, Selectman Kuchu would be, what I just got would be 5 in favor to meet weekly.
That's correct.
Okay,
I'm in agreement.
all right, and the second part of that, do we want to continue meetings as we are doing right now, or do we want to go totally virtual?
Can I just give a comment to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't particularly care to go total virtual with the Board of Selectmen. I think, I don't mind coming to a meeting, okay? But I think it'll do kind of a big disservice and give everybody a headache on how to get everybody to call in and ask questions if they have questions. Whereas we put off public input, then I wouldn't want to go to all virtual meetings, so I would just rather stay with the course. And if you can't make it, we can set people up as we have here tonight.
Yeah, I think that we can all make,
Talking in between microphones, you can't hear them.
I think we're all prudent enough to make our own decision about how we want to attend the meeting, whether it's virtual or physical.
Selectman McGrath?
And I would agree with that. I think that I can make decisions on my own if I feel that there's, I'm not up to par, or if I'm concerned about some hazard that I might.
As long as we have
Basis.
notice so that we can set you up.
Yeah.
The concern would only be if we were all directed to not report
Correct.
in. Then we will deal with that totally electronic. But there's no issue with us setting up a meeting. Some members can attend electronically, other members can attend in person. We'll make that work. No
So-
reason we can't.
Selectman Kuchu, at this point, the 4 members that are in the room right now would like to keep it as we are unless we are told that we cannot. And if somebody decides that they feel that they do not want to attend, we can set them up virtually. How are you with that?
Can he unmute his phone first? Selectman Kuchu, could you please unmute your phone first? There we go.
Good idea. Thank you, Jill. I just want to let the board, I'm in agreement, I'm fine with it. I just want the board to know that I've been through the process. This is new for a municipality to do this. I'm sure there are others that might have done it, but this is new to Hudson. It's the first time we've done it. I've been through the setup process. As you know, Mr. Chairman, went through testing, and it's very simple. The only thing that's problematic is that the last conversation that you just had relative to this subject, 4 people spoke, and almost everybody in the room spoke. The only people I heard in that entire conversation was you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Malaysia. Somehow or another, it appears that you have the microphones closer to you than the others did. Selectman Martin was speaking in between the microphones, so maybe we'll have to talk to our IT director and the HCTV to see if we can get those microphones closer to people. I know some of them are wired up and you can only pull them so far. But other than that, it's gone relatively well this evening, and I'm quite impressed that we can do this. Thank you.
The IT director is here and listening, and we will work on it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Any further discussion on the meetings? Okay, moving on. Remarks from the school board. Mrs. Lamont?
Yeah, I just want to begin with a comment more for the public viewers. We all know that the school district and the town are working together, and Superintendent Russell provided an update on the school's response to COVID-19 at the last Board of Selectmen meeting. I want to emphasize that, as always, but especially now, the best way to obtain information about the schools is to contact the superintendent's office or visit our website, sau81.org. Just a quick update on the recount. On warrant Article 1 on the school ballot. As you know, the article failed by 6 votes, and essentially additional votes were noted in the recount, mainly because people circled the bubble instead of coloring it in, so the machines didn't pick those votes up. And I just want to conclude by saying thank you to everyone who's working on the front line, everyone working behind the scenes. I hope you all feel appreciated. And I wish everyone good health and positivity at this challenging time.
Thank you, Mr. Lamont. Mr. Malaysia?
Just very briefly, I'd like to thank Chief Buxton for his efforts. He has put in a yeoman's effort and certainly has done very, very incredible work with all the stresses that are there. Also thank the department heads, the Board of Selectmen, town employees, and the citizens of our town for trying to work together so that we all stay healthy.
Thank you, sir. Selectman Kuchu, comments?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Primarily, I have just one, and it's all encompassing. I was very pleased that you were reappointed, sir, as our chairman. We are in unprecedented times, and you have headed the emergency management team. I want to thank the police chief, the fire chief, all our department heads, as well as obviously the town administrator and our school system. You have worked as a team and have made Hudson look good, which makes us in turn look good as administrators of the business affairs of our municipality. And the school department has been on board since day one, and we truly appreciate that. I would hope that we would have it no other way. Again, an outstanding job. I want to make it very clear to people who are watching this evening that my wife and I do not have COVID-19. I am here as a personal choice because my children would be all over me if they found that I left the house. So we're in a self-imposed hiatus for a minimum of 2 weeks. We barely left the house. I make it up to the mailbox. Went to the market once and got hell for it. So I have a grocery list waiting for them, and I'll make sure it's taken care of that way. I want the citizens of our town to know that between all of our personnel in town, those that are working, as well as those that are working physically in our buildings, as well as those who are working virtually from their homes, that business is not quite as usual, but we're holding our own. We're doing exceptionally well. There have been no cases in the town related to COVID. We hope it stays that way. We have plenty of supplies on hand. There has been an appeal made that today, as a matter of fact, from the fire department. If anybody has any mask or any PPE item that we could use, that they could drop them off at the Central Fire Station as well as the entryway at the Lowell Road Fire Station. anything anybody can do, I appreciate. I'm sure the entire board appreciates, as does the town. We are a town. We are a community. We've said this several times, Mr. Chairman. The response has been in kind. People are helping neighbors. People are volunteering to do shopping for other people. It's amazing what is going on in our town today, and I'm very proud to say I'm a resident of Hudson, and even more proud to say that the citizens of Hudson make us look good on the Board of Selectmen, so I'm glad I'm on at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for all you've done for our community.
Thank you, Selectman Kuchar, I appreciate it. Selectman Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I don't have any comments, except for all the good work that our staff is doing, the fire chief, everybody included, and I'm hoping to see the sidewalks get plowed soon. So, thank you, that's all I have.
Selectman McGrath.
I don't really have anything to say other than Diane Lamoth just mentioned in her comments about the ballots and how they were marked up inappropriately. I didn't look at any of the school ballots, but I was looking at the town ballots, separating them out and putting them in piles. And I think that that's something that next year, if we mail out the ballots again, there should be something in that package that shows what is a proper voting method and what isn't. I shouldn't say a lot, but there were a number of ballots that we either they marked off yes and then put an X through it and then selected no. Some people just drew a line through. They didn't color in the bubbles. And some people made errors on their ballots and came over to either myself or Patty Berry or Paul Ingerbitsen and said that they made a mistake, and they were given a new ballot to mark up, and the incorrect ballot was voided. So I think that would be a service to the voters, because people think that they're doing the right thing, and it ends up that their vote isn't counted unless there is a hand recount. And that means that every ballot is looked at by a person, not by a machine. So I think that that's something that we should work on at the end of the year.
Thank you. Selectman Roy.
So I think I just want to echo what a bunch of people have already said. I need to thank the department heads, the school department, the employees, Chairman Moran, particularly Chief Buxton, and the citizens for their patience and their flexibility. This has been a trying time, and with ever-changing messages that we try to adjust to, and we try to make the best decisions, as I've continually been saying, to help strike a balance between keeping employees and citizens safe and providing them the services that we're obligated to provide them. And I would ask that you continue with that kind of patience and flexibility as we go through this. I would also say that if you're going to get information, please get it from reliable sources. The CDC website, the World Health Organization, the town website, the school website. Now is not the time to take what you read on Facebook or social media as gospel. And I guess that's all I have, other than, call your neighbor, reach out to people that you think might be alone or whatever at this time, and just say hi. That's all I have.
Thank you. Today I received a message directed at myself and Selectman Kuchu about how we're dealing with the kids with this and having explanations. And when I read it, and then I called the person that sent it to me, and I couldn't see two old guys sitting down talking to the kids trying to explain this. So what I did is I called the library director, Linda, and they're gonna put a program together, and they're gonna film it for HCTV, talking about it with the kids and what the kids can do and what they should know about it. So that will be coming. Linda's started working on that today. It's probably gonna be a couple days before it goes out, but that's a group we missed. I was out walking the other day, and saw a lot of driveway art, and it's all the kids, and they have a whole different perspective of this, and that's one of the great things. we kind of missed out on the kids and talking to them. So that's being worked on. I don't want to say any more because you all said it very well. The town's amazing. All our department heads have came together as a team. The school has come together as a team, and it has made this situation so much easier. The businesses, the residents out there, everybody's pitching in to make this as easy as it can. I think we still got a ways to go before we're over this, but if we continue doing what we are doing, we'll get through it together and get through it and come out better on the other end. I appreciate everything, again, you've all done. This is definitely a team, and I think we work very well together, and it has proven over the last year some of the things that we've had to handle, and now where we're at now. If it wasn't a team, we wouldn't be where we're at, and when I mean team, it is the whole town. Motion to adjourn, or would anybody like to?
Just-
Selectman Martin.
One thing, I wanted to talk to Lisa after, but I'm gonna mention it now so she can hear it. Everybody can hear what I'm gonna mention. Right now, we have the phone. Is there a way that we can buy a three-way speaker and set it in the middle of the room? Okay, there's my answer. Thank you.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Selectman Roy, seconded by Selectman McGrath. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Roll call?
Selectman Kuchu.
Aye.
Selectman McGrath.
Aye.
Selectman Moran.
Aye.
Selectman Roy.
I was
Aye.
waving.
Chairman Moran.
Aye.
Selectman Martin.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
That was a wish. Selectman Kuchu, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Everyone have a good night.
You're welcome.
Two.